right, ladies and gentlemen, now that you are all set up for printmaking, you are going to start making your prints. Now, you are going to start with whatever color you want as your background. So I'm going to choose purple. I chose an analogous color scheme of purple and red. I am choosing purple for my first background color. I am going to do red for my second stencil color. So you're going to do a 2-color print. So you're first going to, it is already open. I am making sure it was open. I'm going to take and put a little bit right directly on my jelly plate. Now look at how much I put. It was maybe like a quarter's worth, and I'm going to spread it out. So I'm going to roll, 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 roll all the way to the edges. I'm going to try to keep it off of my register plate just because it'll make my space a little neater. Now, one thing you will notice, when you get printmaking ink or paint, as we are using today, oops, I made a little mistake, that's okay. When you get it to the right thickness, it's going to make a sound. It's going to look like the texture of an orange, and it's going to make a sound. I'm not getting that sound, so I'm going to add a tiny bit more. I'm going to spread it out. And now I'm starting to get that orangey texture, like the surface of an orange. But I'm still not getting my sound. So, I'm going to add a little bit more. It's much better to add a little at a time and roll it out than to add too much and have an issue. There we go. Now I'm starting to get my sound. Alright, so I've got my first layer right there. So, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my texture scraper. I'm going to pick which side I'm going to use, and I'm going to scrape it in an interesting way, kind of repeating myself. Ooh, that's kind of a cool pattern. I'm going to put this to the side. Now I'm going to register my print. So I'm going to lay it down, line it up with the edges of my paper, and then slowly press it down. I'm going to press it with my hands first, and then I'm going to take my brayer and I'm going to burnish. Burnish is the process of rubbing the top of the print. It means that we don't have a printing press. This is going to push the ink onto the paper. Alright, now the next process is called pulling the print. You're going to pull from one corner and make sure, and I'm going to pull my print, and that's pretty cool. So I'm going to lay it on my dry wrap paper. Alright, now the cool thing about jelly prints is that you can do what's called a ghost print. So since I want to get rid of the rest of this, but I don't want to waste the ink, I'm just going to print a second plate. I'm going to push it down, I lined it up, and I'm going to burnish. Okay, there we go. And now that pretty much cleaned up everything, and it's not the same, if you'll notice. My ghost print's a little lighter, but it's not the same, but it has a little bit of a different look to it. So your ghost plates might be a little different. You are then going to take a paper towel or a wipe. You are going to take a wipe since there's very little left on here, I'm just going to clean it up and get all the rest of that purple off, or at least most of it. It's okay if there's a little purple left on your piece. All right, and I'm also going to take my wipe or a wet paper towel if we don't have any wipes, and wipe most of my purple off my brayer. Now you are not going to do this yet because you're going to print all of these. So you're going to do 3 different textures using your texture plate before you wipe. So you have all 6 papers printed with your background. I'm not going to make you watch me do all 6, but that's what you're going to do. 3 prints, 3 ghost prints. Then wipe everything down and get most of your first color off. Then you're going to take your second color. I put a little bit more because I knew that my plate needed a little bit more. And now I'm going to roll it out. All the way to the edges. Do not leave the edges. Do not leave the edges blank. Make sure it's nice and smooth. I need a little bit more. Remember, less is more. Do a little bit at a time rather than lose it. Now this one I am not going to do a texture on. So you're not using your texture scraper. This one I'm going to put my stencil on. Now, realize when we print something, it prints backwards. So if you have any words on your stencil, or if you want your stencil or your final print to look exactly like your stencil, you want to turn it over so it is pencil side down. Okay, and then you are very carefully, especially if yours is like mine and very wobbly, you are going to set it on your plate, lining up the edges. You don't want to move it around too much but once you got it, you're going to lightly press it down. All right. Now, just as a demonstration, no, I'm not going to do that. All right, so now I've got this all done. I'm going to go to one of my printed backgrounds, and I'm going to register my print. So I'm going to line it up on the edges, that way I know my paper is lined up, and then I'm going to press down, trying to keep it clean. You are then going to burnish again. And you're going to burnish a little bit more this time because you want to make sure you're getting that ink on through that stencil. And then you're going to pull. See,